How you guys doing? Yes, we're going to be talking about the good old adornments today, because on Age of Empires Mobile, you guys have been asking me in comment section for quite a few weeks now. I have been seeing them, these adornments, but we've been getting around to it. We've had a lot of stuff to go on, as you guys have seen. So today is the day. And what I'm going to do is a little bit different. I am going to go and give you my biggest advice for all of these adornments and what I am believing is going to be the best from, especially what I've seen as well from other content creators. And I'm just going to go through all of the special effects as well. So literally, if you've never known anything about adornments, today is probably your day, because I'm going to give you the masterclass in it all. So before we do, smash like, comment, and subscribe, support the channel, and if you want to go that one little step further, and if you top up on your account, check out my Eneba link in the description down below. Anything you purchase, Apex or Empire coins on that website is going to support the channel directly, and I want to say thank you to the Sneakyy Army that's already been doing so. So with that, let's get into the fun stuff, right? Adornments. So, if you've never seen adornments, don't worry, this is a mechanic that you unlock on your mounts. So, when you go to your mounts, you need to get to your animal research, and you need to go to the left side here and click on bloodline stability. Until you unlock this, you won't have adornments, but as soon as you do, it pops up at the very bottom. What you do then is, whenever you get a good old mount that you like, for example, like this one I have on my good old Mehmed, we've got Lando Norris here, all packed up, ready to be ridden, and Lando Norris here has Lifesaver on, which is quite nice. Obviously, I would like a better Lifesaver, which we will get in the future, but we have this slot, and if you compare it to another hero like my Ramses, he does not, right? He does not have a single adornment on there, right? So because of this, you can actually go and equip these adornments, which give you bonus effects as well as a special effect that you need to literally gamble for through the worst slot machine in Age of Empires Mobile's history, right? And by going up this slot machine, you will basically empower this special effect. That is literally what adornments are in a nutshell. So hopefully now, no matter what, if you're new, if you're a returning player, or if you're a veteran like me, we should be all on the same page. We know what they are, because it's one of them things that's super annoying to try and get a video done and everyone's on different pages, right? So now we're on the same page. Let's talk about adornments. Adornments come in two forms, and this is super important. One of them is the offensive form. This is going to give you swordsman attack, swordsman health, and hero skill damage on the base attributes. So you can see this is obviously Swift Blade for the swordsman. If we look at the defensive one now, this is Mystic Mirror for the swordsman, and it's just kind of the flip side of things. We're getting swordsman defense, swordsman health, and troop damage taken reduction. This is actually super important to understand, because when we go to their special effects, you will notice for obviously the swordsman, they will have the exact same pool of special effects that you can see in this selection here. So if you go down and check this in your own game, you will see that both of them share the same type, which means then what you're trying to do is technically create an adornment that you want on your formation with the right special effect on too. And I know you're probably thinking, obviously we should know all this, Sneakyy, but what is the right adornment? Well, firstly, it depends on your unit type, and it does depend on what you currently have right now, right? Because one issue that everyone's going to start to find out, which is going to catch them in the butt, right, is the fact that if you triple up troop damage taken reduction on this Mystic Mirror here, yes, you will get 3 times the troop damage taken reduction on your march. However, your march, just like any other march in the game, has maximum limits. And I do believe the maximum limit for troop damage taken reduction is actually 15%. So, not 15%, 75%. So once you break 75%, you ain't getting anything else, right? Because if you went to 80%, 90%, or 100%, you would literally be immune to damage, right? So I'm pretty certain troop damage taken reduction is around 75%. Somebody in the comments will probably correct me if it's a little bit lower, around 65%. but I'm pretty certain it is 75. Because of this then, if you are, again, putting any extra points into damage taken reduction, you're going to be wasting it. That's why Swiftblade exists. And what's more important with Swiftblade is it's giving you hero skill damage increase. This means whatever hero has this equipped onto their mount is getting that direct damage increase. So as you can probably guess it, in a formation, for majority of cases, you're probably going down a 1-2 split of some sort. This means as a swordsman player, you might be running, for example, Miyamoto with Tribuana and Lagertha, right? Easy. Or you might be running Yodit, Tribuana, Lagertha, right? Let's be fair to both of you guys, right? The spenders and kind of more lower and free-to-play spenders, right? If you're one of those players, you have to think, well, Mystic Mirror is going to be fantastic for my Tribuana, because Tribuana isn't really doing any damage, so for her to give my troops all these bonus stats is great. It's fantastic. But for my Miyamoto, for my Lagertha, for my Yodit, for my King Arthur, right? For all these damage-based swordsmen, that's normally 2 in the lineup, you might as well just run Swiftblade, because you are still getting the health, which is fantastic, but as a swordsman player, you are pretty darn tanky already. Let's be honest, you've got some really good defensive stats. So going double defensive or triple defensive Adornments here seems like a little bit of an overkill, right? Especially when you could be increasing that Miyamoto's, Lagertha, Yodit or King Arthur's damage directly from the base attributes, right? This is going to be the same now if we go to pikemen, right? Pikemen are in a very similar boat where, to be honest, they can take a shit ton of damage. Let's be real, right? Then they have a shit ton of damage reduction, right? So what you need to do is check out on your formation and see how much you have, because you might need to run 2 shields, but in large majority of cases, as I'm going to imagine, most marchers are going to run 1, because you run Mansa Musa. It's as simple as that. You run Mansa Musa, right? Vladimir, Cyrus, right? Boudica, even if you want to put it in there, right? Any of those heroes are going to go down the damage route. They would rather just have a hero skill damage, because they're going to do damage overall compared to actually supporting. If you're using Barbarossa, right? Go for Stalwart Shield. Makes a lot more sense, right? Same with if you're using Elizabeth. Stalwart Shield. Makes a lot more sense, right? But if you're using Belisarius, Ashoka, Guiding Star just makes, again, a lot more sense to those marches, because if you're dealing more damage from your hero, aka the Belisarius or the Ashoka, the assimilation damage is going to trigger, meaning you're going to get more troops back from that recovery rate you have, which is your inbuilt lifesteal. So you can see already, for swordsmen and pikemen, it's pretty transparent. The one exception to this rule, and this might be just because I am an archer player, is archers. Archers are the only exception to this rule, where we are legitimately fragile. We are fragile little paper planes out there trying to drop a bomb on someone before someone fires their fire arrow and takes us out of the sky. Let's be honest, right? So, we're the only kind of formation in the game that I would recommend that we need to go triple Eagle's Blessing, because we actually don't have good damage reduction. We just don't. We have Mehmed, and that's it. We literally have Mehmed, right? And he does not get us nowhere near to the damage reduction that we need to get to, right? Let's be honest, he really doesn't. He does a good job on his own, but he's not like a Mansa Barbarossa, right? He's nowhere near on that tankiness level, right? He's not even on Zhu Liang's level, right? Let's be real with ourselves. So because of this, archers do lack one thing, which is defense, health, and honestly not taking damage. Archers have the highest attack stat in the game. They do not need more damage. It's as simple as that. So for me, this is the only niche case, and I will be testing this out myself too for you guys, so you know I'm not going to be just bullshitting you with the different types of adornments, but this is what we're going to be doing, right? So for cavalry, just to finish it up, you can imagine now, since you are running good old, Lubu and most likely Zhao Yun in the future, you can probably get away with doing double damage. However, I don't hate the idea of only running unyielding iron on Lubu, because he is the main damage dealer, and having your Timur and having your Zhao Yun running the Sacred Lily. This is again allowing you to try and hit that maximum damage taken reduction. But again, you got to remember, if you hit 75% damage reduction, there's no need to try and get any more. There's just no need. It's like critical strike chance on Lubu. If you check out his critical strike chance, he has a maximum limit. If you go over that limit, it's just negligible, right? It does not matter, does not care. You're not having 85 or 100%. It's maxed out at this 75, right? So you got to think now, because of that, it's the same here with our cavalry, right? So now, hopefully, you guys understand the concept, I think, of these different adornments and why you should be using them on actually different formations. And it's not just black and white on maxing out full damage taken reduction, right? So because of that, let's just go through a bunch of these special effects after I just explain the different heroes that you would use these different adornments on, and it might give you a better idea of what we're talking about, right? So for the swordsman at the very top, we've kind of went over this. Swiftblade is for any of the offensive heroes. Miyamoto, Ramses, King Arthur, right? You can go for King Canute in the future, Lagertha, Yoda. These are all offensive damage dealing swordsmen that might be primary commanders or used as a pairing with that commander because they do good damage and steroid them up. When we look at Mystic Mirror, we're looking at heroes like Scipio in the future. We're looking at Mehmed, Tribuana, right? These are support-based swordsmen that aren't dealing any damage, so having hero skill on them just doesn't make sense anymore, right? So Mystic Mirror is an easy choice to put on those guys. Guiding Star. This is going to be fantastic for stuff like Cyrus, for even Richard, right? If you're in Season 1. Richard, your Vlad's out there, right? Boudica, who's out there. Belisarius, Ashoka, right? These are your damage dealers, and these are the guys that would be using Guiding Star. Going through Stalwart Shield, you probably guessed it. It's your Mansa Musas, it's your Barbarosas. In the future, it'll be Roland when he comes out, right? It's going to be your Elizabeth, your DGG, right? DJG, shall we say? DJ coming out, right? So you can see how we're going down this path. Now, Unyielding Iron. Pretty simple. It's going to be your Guan Yu, technically, right, who deals damage. It's going to be your Lubu. It's going to be your Zhao Yun. It's going to be your Hannibal. Your Belisarius, again, if he's a cavalry-based setup, right? It's going to be all of those heroes. Sacred Lily, the opposite. Timur, Attila. It could be even using... what do you call it? William, the new William hero, right? So that's honestly how straightforward these are. Mulan, Bellevue, perfect. Piercing Arrow. When we get Aslan, straight away. When we get Eagle's Blessing, Mehmed, right? We've got all of these damage reduction and support-based setups all on these adornments. So just make sure you know that. And don't worry, what I plan to do, and let me know if you want to see this, is actually make a whole infographic with those adornments. So you know what adornments should be going with what heroes, just because it makes sense on paper. And on top of that, you don't want to be over going the troop damage reduction that you might be maxing out from Peaceful Haven procs through even your ring choices, right? There's a bunch of different stuff that all add up into that 1%. So now, because we've gone through all of that, let me just take a little break, because I know it's a lot of information. We will go through the special effects in a moment, but I want to talk about how I feel like I'm going to test them, right? How am I going to test these? Because there's a few ways we can test, right? I can try and find players and hit them up and be like, yo, can I try and hit you for 50k? The issue is then it comes down to tech differences and all of this jazz, and it's just going to be a bit of a nightmare, right? So I'm going to be doing two things for now, two simple things for now, to test it, as many people will guess, right? The first one is actually using the Tribal Chief. So the Tribal Chief is one unit on the map, as you guys know, and as I kill it on the exploration, I will get my 1 gold medal head. I'm going to keep doing that, obviously getting my gold medal head. However, when I want to test certain things, certain marches, I can hit the Tribal Chief, right? I can go against this one guy in a 1v1 and equip these adornments on, and equip certain special effects onto these adornments, right? And see how well they do, right? So I can test it through that means. As you guys have guessed it with the other one, I can also do the supply bounty. So I can technically hit the max level, 120 supply bounty and see how much of a difference does it do. Do I survive more? Do I do more damage? From obviously a swarming scenario instead of a more lopsided 1v1 fight, if you want to say. And that'll be the only way, in honesty, we can test it at a base level. There's no form, as you guys know, of testing in the game, which is like a testing area. There's no testing dummy. There's nowhere you can just go and have a maxed account and just test these things for yourself. We have to be a little bit creative and think of our ways, right? So that's what we're going to be doing for the good old adornments and how we are going to be testing them. So now let's get back into adornments, right? Let's talk about the special effects that you can have on these, and we'll finish up today's video, and then I'll start working on the good old infographic you guys have been asking for. So with that, let's go back into the adornment workshop in the riding grounds. One thing you'll notice with these special effects, it is very simple. We get two types of effects in the pool. We get hero specifics, which are the 1%. These are the rare traits, right? So if you get this rare special effect, you know it's going to be a good one, because technically it's a 1%er, right? In most case scenarios. And then you have, as you see down here, 12%. These are, as you've not noticed, grey. So these are common based traits, right? And the thing is, no matter what, if you look yourself, the choices that you have between the Swiftblade and the Mystic Mirror, which is the Swordsman adornments, are the exact same. So in theory, if you want to go for a defensive Starlink, you can do so, or if you want to go for an offensive Starlink, you can do so, right? This is going to be the same for every single type of these special effects. So when it comes into the pikemen have 4 of their own, which they like, and then you'll notice they have common ones too, but these will be in a different pool, right? So you will see some overlaps, like Resistance, for example, and even Blood Rage will be an overlapped type of one, but stuff like Blood Debt might be unique towards the good old pikeman, right? And you'll see some more like guard formation, another one, right? That is specific towards our good old pikeman. And this is going to be shared with Stalwart Shield. Same goes down for cavalry and archers. And what I'm going to do is go through what I actually like about these and what I don't like about these, and just to give you a bit of information on them. Starlink and Blazing Edge is the first two that you can see on screen. These are for swordsmen, and specifically, if you get Starlink, this is for strategy-based heroes like Sun Tzu, Ramses, and Blazing Edge is supposed to be for heroes like Miyamoto, Yodit, right? The thing is with this march is when the hero activates their signature active skill, you have a 45% chance to deal this little bit of damage on top, right? Which isn't too bad. 87% is what most people will get these to. Some people will push to 103.5% and stop just because the effort it takes to get to the 120% is costly, it's too much RNG involved, and it's just not rewarding enough for players to do so. This is the same for Starlink, right? On the strategy side. These are going to be okay damage ones, right? The thing is with these, I think you can get a better one, and I'm going to have to test this out myself before I fully, commit to say it like it is. But these are fine. The issue they have is it happens once every 3 seconds, which isn't too bad because technically, it's every major rotation of the heroes, which isn't bad at all. But if you're using Blazing Edge, for example, and you are using a Miyamoto and Lagger for combo, well, if you have the Judgment stacks, the Judgment stacks are going to cause your Miyamoto to want to deal 2 instances of damage, and that's not going to get the full value of the Blazing Edge, right? You can kind of get that, right? It's just not going to do it, unfortunately. You're going to get that 87% or 103.5% damage on the first hit, but you won't get it on the second, right? Which is fair enough. It's fair enough, right? But I think because of that, there is better choices which are hidden and not in the 1% routes, right? However, there is natural selection, and I do think every swordsman match will be using this. I think there's 2 actual setups or 2 special effects that you will always be running on swordsman, and then the third one is debatable, right? Natural selection is one of them, right? Once every 9 seconds, which is a turn-based effect, you have a 75% chance, which is stupidly high, to trigger the following effects. Each effect is determined independently. That means you get a 75% chance to reduce your damage, and you get a 75% chance to increase your commander's damage dealt, meaning you can get 2 buffs rolling at the same time, which sounds awfully like Mehmed, which it is, right? And the beautiful thing about this is it's so much damage to your commander and reduction in damage if you just have this, right? This is 12 or 10%. With the Mystic Mirror, you're going to 20% already on onwards on the amount of stats that you're going to have, right? Which is just ridiculous. And I do have a video showcasing on my earlier Adornments, if you check it out, leveling up every base attribute and doing it on the Pioneer server so you could see what these stats, scale up to. But natural selection, I think, is always one you're going to put on. You're going to want to try to hit this natural selection on the Mystic Mirror, because you do want to get natural selection Mystic Mirror on your Tribuana, on the Mehmed, on Scipio. If you can get it on any of those 3 heroes, you're happy as dates, because you've literally got the most supportive hero and effects to go to your commander, right? Radiance, if you've not guessed it, is the King Arthur one, and I'm not going to talk about this. I think Timmy's going to be doing some testing on it, and I'd love to wait and see how good this does. The difference, though, is it does show you a multiplier for the first time, 1.45 times the damage. Multiplicative and additive bonuses are different. And when you multiply something, you do always get it larger than an additive bonus. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can check this out on Google. Type in additive versus multiplicative bonuses, and then you'll see it pop up like in gaming, like it'll just pop up, right? So I'm not going to comment on it, but this is going to be interesting to see if the multiplier is going to be better than the additive. Now, going into the common effects. Thunder is kind of following the same suit as the other effects, but I just think this is worse. If you get Thunder, it is what it is, but obviously Blazing Edge or Starlink is a better version of it, and I would rather have those over having Thunder. Which is going to surprise a lot of you. However, the second actual special effect that I want to talk about, and this is going to be on multiple different of the units, and that's why I want to put a bit more time into it, is Resistance. Resistance is just too good. And I know Timmy's been doing, again, a bunch of testing. If you check out his channel, and you'll see this, that Resistance is outperforming nearly every other common effect that he's tested so far. This is simply because it's too good. Why? It doesn't require the match to do anything compared to a lot of the other special effects, and it just guarantees you damage reduction for each use. So for 18 seconds, 3 instances of skill damage, which means if your enemy uses like their signature skill or like a weak spot attack, for example, for their customizable skills, whenever they're doing some big bang damage to you, 3 instances of that is getting reduced instantly by 10% or 12.5, which is a lot of damage each, right? Then the damage taken is reduced by 6.8 to 8.5%. That means for the first 18 seconds, you take 8.5% less damage, and for the first 3 instances of skill damage, they're getting reduced by 12.57% too. It is a lot of damage reduction that you have in the match, and it's timed for the first 18 seconds in battle. Meaning, if you beat that opponent and then attack someone else, that is a brand new combat, that is a brand new battle, and for the first 18 seconds in that battle, it will trigger again. It is fantastic. And then after the 18 seconds, it halves the actual damage reduction that you have here. It is easily an all-star one, and you can imagine now you could put Resistance on any adornment, and I mean that. You could put Resistance on the offensive adornment or the defensive adornment for any of the units that have access to Resistance, and just equip it onto the march, because you could be running, as you probably guessed it now, Resistance on like Lagertha. Then you could be running the Natural Selection Mystic Mirror combo on Tribuana, which is just perfect. You've just got an offensive Swiftblade with Resistance now, right? And you got Mystic Mirror with the perfect defense combo. So you can kind of see why I think you're always going to be running those two. The third one now is going to catch, I think, a lot of people off guard, because I think a lot of people have tried using Blood Rage and Headhunter as well as Thunder as their damage choices. But one thing they keep ignoring, and I think it's actually much better, especially for every type of swordsman out there, and that includes Ramses, Miyamoto, and vice versa, is actually scrolling down and checking out these two. So this is Wavebreaker and Calculation for Swordsman. When the mounted hero activates their signature active skill, you increase their might by a flat amount of attributes. So this is 4.19 points of might, and it stacks up to 3 times. So that's over 12.6, or well, 12.94, I want to say, or 92, if I'm around there, extra might. And when it's fully stacked, you increase the active skill damage now by 10%, right? This is huge. I don't think you realize how huge this is. In the game, as many people will tell you, level 140 heroes and the extra attributes that they gain wins fights. Same with mounts. If you actually have a mythic mount, which gives you like 20 points extra might, compared to someone else who has a rare horse with 5 points of might, you will see the actual extra attributes really do matter. And this is because when you go to a hero, for example, you have to remember when we go to any of them, right? So if we go to Napoleon, your damage is based off your strategy or off your might, right? And this is for everything, right? So if you can increase this base number higher and higher and higher, well, the amplification further down the road is more exponential, right? Because you're increasing the damage dealt from the bonus on this strategy here. You're also increasing, you gotta remember, like maybe your bonuses on your rings, which might give you more crit, for example, or more damage reduction, right? Every single thing works off these attributes. It's the base minimal attribute that everything goes off. And because of that, you have to think when it comes to these adornments, you can have a free skill that is giving you just more stats. And what's better about it is, even when you get the 12.9 extra, well, the 12.6, right? The 12.5, I forgot what it were, right? 12.5 something, like 5.7, right? Whenever you get that amount of attributes and it's maxed up, which is super fast because it only takes literally your Miyamoto to go active skill, Lagertha to go a skill, judgment, Miyamoto skill, right? That's just how combo orientated it works. He's fully stacked, and because he's fully stacked now for the rest of that fight, he's gonna have 10% extra damage. This is just, to me, in just so much better than anything else, especially with Ramses too. Ramses is going to go off super fast with Wave Breaker, so it's going to get fully stacked, and the strategy damage, it's just the same, right? It's just strategy instead of might, right? So you got calculation for strategy, Wave Breaker for might. Remember that. So if you're looking for a damage choice and you actually roll one of these, don't sleep on it, because I am going to test it out. Like I said, I will test this out myself, but I guarantee you these two are going to outweigh Headhunter. They're going to outweigh Blood Rage. They'll do better than Thunder, right? Because these have got very niche requirements and they're hard to do. This is not hard to do at all. This is just what you do in the game. And that's kind of what you want. You just want to keep on path and not diverge off the path, right? Let's be real. Same with these last two. These last two I just don't like. Mutual Aid is kind of cool. Yes, healing effects are increased, and when you do recover units, you get this effect. But for the majority of swordsmen, which isn't memed at the moment, the recovery is chance-based. If you don't get this off straight away, you're going to feel it, because that is the difference between Mutual Aid and resistance. Resistance, I start the fight with 10% damage reduction. Well, Mutual Aid, I have to heal first, and once I heal, I only get 4%? I'm going through more hoops and loops and jumps, right? And yet I'm getting less. I know I'm getting an increase too to my healing, but that doesn't equal the same. People know that just doesn't equal the same, right? So I don't care about Mutual Aid. And the same thing with Charge. It's only for the first 3 signature active skills. Well, we've just established for myself, if we're going down the Wave Breaker route or the calculation route for any of those heroes, they activate their signature skills 20 plus times. Let's be honest, they do. Even 15, 10 times, right? They don't do it free. This is terrible. Like, the only time this might be helpful, I'll be honest, it was maybe a Sun Tzu match. But Sun Tzu doesn't care about this. He would rather do something else. I can guarantee it for the same price. So, when it comes to the special effects now, hopefully if you're a swordsman player and you've listened to this section, you kind of understand what we're going to be rolling now, right? You're going to be wanting natural selection and resistance as 2 actual core special effects. And then, after we do the tests properly, you're going to be either rolling Wave Breaker, Calculation, or it's going to be Starlink Blazing Edge. It's going to be one of those 4 skills, because you're going to be wanting to obviously maximize the damage reductions that you can without hitting the maximum damage reduction limit, and then you want to still increase your main commander's damage output because he's the one that typically carries the lineup, right? So it makes sense on paper, and that's what I would advise and what I'm going to be doing and testing as well in the future for my marches. Now, we're on pikemen. Pikeman is pretty much similar. So in the battle, once every 6 seconds for resourceful, the mounted hero has a chance to gain in the following effects before acting. You can have a 60% chance of skill strategy damage to increase for 3 seconds, or 60% chance for strategy to increase by these flat points. These are actually pretty good. And I like resourcefulness because it happens every 6 seconds. It's turn-based. It's for 3 seconds, so you only have 3-second downtime. But just like I said earlier on with natural selection, it's each independent. So you get a 60% chance, which in theory means you could have both 20 extra points and 14.95% extra damage from your strategy. This is the same for Gambit. Gambit says after the hero mounted deals skill damage, you have a 65% chance to deal this damage, and if not, you increase the strategy by this amount. So what do we want to do here? Do we want to deal damage and get the effect? Or do we want to just guarantee we've got the timer effect? As you can guess, these are both for either your Shocker or Elizabeth-based marches, right, with Belisarius, because it's strategy. Well, for me, if you've not guessed it, I'd actually rather go for Gambit. And I know it sounds crazy, but look, Gambit is just going to get this on, right? Oh no, I lie, not Gambit, Resourcefulness. Resourcefulness is the one I want, not Gambit. Because the difference between these is, if you read this, after the mounted hero skill damage has a 65% chance to deal that damage, we basically have a chance to hit an extra bop. But then, if we don't do that, we increase, right? This says, in battle, once every 6 seconds, you have a chance to gain the following effects, and it's 60% chance to trigger, and each effect determined independently. So the best question to me, or to you, the viewer, as a pikeman, why would you settle for only one of these attributes when we can get both? I know it's only for 6, it happens every 6 seconds, it lasts for 3, but this is the same. This is when you deal damage, it lasts for 3 seconds. This is going to start at the beginning of combat. If you deal damage at the beginning of combat, this is going to do the same thing. The difference is if you don't deal damage, you're going to get the attributes. Well, I could get the attributes and the damage. So I will say for pikemen, this one I feel is actually a pretty good one, resourcefulness. I actually think Gambit is the trap. Now, secondary strike is the big one people have been screaming at about pikemen for your Vlad or for your Cyrus. When your mounted hero deals counter-attack damage, there's a 65% chance to immediately deal damage, and then this is obviously once every 3 seconds, right? I do like this, but again, insight, when your troop takes skill damage, you reduce subsequent damage taken from that skill, right? So you got to think, for most of them, so for your Vladimir and for your Cyrus, you would run secondary strike. But you need insight on this match because a lot of the time you are going to be taking constant weak spot attack hits. You're going to be constantly getting hit by Ripper Tigers, for example. You're going to be constantly getting hit by like Acts of Mercy. There's a bunch of different second strike skills that you're constantly going to keep getting attacked by the cavalry because that's what you're aiming to kill, right? So Insight is again a fantastic damage one, right? That you can go for. But you'll notice for the warrior pikeman, you do need to go 2 secondary strike to 1 insight if you're going to go down that route. Super hard to do that, but hey, you've got better options. Remember, Thunder, we don't care about. I'll be real. I don't really care about Thunder. I just think if you want to go for damage, Resourcefulness or Gambit is better for strategy users. Secondary strike is better for warrior users. Resistance, though, is good. I actually really like resistance. Again, in here, if you run resistance instead of insight, no one's going to complain because it's still fantastic as a damage reduction special effect. Blood Rage, we don't care about. Generating rage once we below 50% because it's once, and if this was only once, why do we care? We don't want to do a one-time effect. We want to be able to keep getting constant value out of a special effect because it's so costly in order to do so. Stacked armor, though, is a good one, but it's just not as good as stacked armor. After entering battle, you reduce your troops' damage by 2.5%. This is everything, right, in the troop, by every 3 seconds, right? It stacks, though, 3 times. This is why it's good. Because you are stacking this up. It's 7.5% overall troop damage reduction on the march. Fantastic. But you can have basically 12% and 10% here instantly for 3 instances of skill damage, and which normally will win the fight again for most players. So stacked armor and resistance for pikemen, both good. I would actually run either one of them. I'm not going to be mad for that. And then for everything else, I'll be honest, it's just not going to be great. It just isn't. Even the guard formation within the area of 500, each allied troop in the battle has the mounted armor increase, right? So this is basically saying for each allied troop, you can give them extra armor, meaning they get more might damage reduction because armor reduces might damage taken. It just isn't good enough. Even for like a Ramcam match, I just would not go for this. It's just better to go for any of the other special effects that we've talked about. So for pikemen, to kind of clear it up, I know I've been kind of iffy here and there, right? What I would be doing is simply, if I am going for a strategy march, I would be going for resourcefulness over gambit. It's just my opinion. I'd rather have 2 stats over 1. It's as simple as that. If you're a warrior pikeman, especially if you're Vlad and if you're Cyrus, second strike is going to be the way you go. Even for Boudica, you can probably get away with running this on there too. It's just going to allow you to extend the amount of damage you deal. Insight, though, is going to be a really good damage reduction choice. And if you were to go down 2 damage reductions, you would run insight and resistance, and if you didn't get a good resistance, it would be down to stacked armor instead, right? And that's honestly all you need to know for the special effects. I actually think the other special effects in here just isn't worth it. I think it's just too many loops. The requirements are just too hard to get to, right? And it's just not constant benefits. We want good constant benefits that we can keep bringing into the fight, not something that's gonna last one time and one time only, right? Moving on to the final 2, cavalry. So cavalry have got some really cool, honestly interesting special effects. I'll be real with you, right? They really do. Even got resistance, if you've not guessed it. So if, yes, before we go into the big ones at the top, resistance is going to be one you're going to want. Everything else, though, I'm not too bothered about. And even Timmy's done some good old testing on Cloud Piercer, for example, and Shadow Chaser. And both of them just did not beat damage reduction, which I just obviously could admit. I could guess that, because it just won. If you can reduce the amount of damage you take, this amplification doesn't matter because you've just negated it. And now you're hitting harder than they were, right? So overall, you have more troops. Overall, having more troops wins fights. Simple as. So because of that, right, we're always going to suggest resistance, but the other ones are actually pretty good at the top. I'm not going to lie. Lone Valor, so after entering battle, if there's only 1 combat target, reduce your troop damage taken by there. Therefore, every 9 seconds, if there's only 1 combat, you can increase your commander damage dealt. So if you're really good at picking certain people, this is nice. I don't like this playstyle. I think this is like the bad roll out of the ones that you could get. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think this is the bad roll of it. It makes sense, I think, in rallies, because if you're in a rally, you are only fighting 1 combat, and then you're going into another combat and into another combat. So maybe in a rally, this works, and I would have to test this out if it does, if it makes it really good. And so, but this is where things get really good, right? Boiling Blood. So after a mounted hero deals critical strike damage, you recover units and you increase the hero's second strike skill damage. It's just great. Like, increasing your own damage by 10% and recovering units is great for, honestly, Lubu. Lubu deals enough damage. I think anyone will tell you Lubu deals enough damage. And I know people probably smiling and saying, no, Sneakyy, he needs to deal more damage. It's like, bro, I know you want to think that, but he deals ridiculous damage already, especially with Zhao Yun coming, and obviously we've got Timur in there too, doing all the jazz for that formation. You're gonna think this is just gonna make him that slightly bit more tankier. It's gonna slightly trigger that damage amplification, which means he is gonna get that bit more harder hitting. So I do like Boiling Blood. It makes sense for the good old Lubu and like Zhao Yun, for example, right? Rally and the next two, again, very similar. So after the mounted hero launches 12 normal attacks, you reduce their skill damage by 15%, and you increase the other hero's skill damage in the troop by a certain amount up to 2 stacks. Rally is what you're going to be using if you want to amplify your Lubu or your Zhao Yun. This is going to be equipped to heroes like Attila or for Timur. You got to think, if you've got a Timur or if you've got an Attila, both of those heroes enter the double attack state, especially if you've got the double, the Lubu, Timur, and Attila setup. So the Attila gives everyone double attack. You got to think, those heroes don't do damage. So if you're reducing people who don't do damage, well, that's a net positive, right? And then you're increasing your Lubu's damage by technically 10% on top. So you can go down this damage amplification. I do like this one, actually. It's a pretty good one. Chainslayer, though, is the Belisarius one. Even maybe Hannibal could use this, but I think it is tailored for Belisarius. So after the mounted hero activates 3 customizable secondary strike skills or active skills, you increase the next hero's skill damage. This stacks up to 2 times, so this gets up to obviously 16%, going on to 17%, right? 17.2. So not bad, especially for the Belisarius if you're playing Cavalry Belisarius. This might be pretty interesting in the future, because you got to think we're having William as well, and William wants you to have, if I remember correctly, different types of skills. So if you can get someone with customizable skills and someone with active skills, Chainslayer technically works on both of them, and it helps that mounted hero who has it equipped do more damage. Let's be real. So I like this. I don't know how good this is going to be, but for a damage option, fantastic. So if you've not guessed it so far, we're going to be rolling Boiling Blood as probably a must-pick damage choice, because it's giving you damage and it's giving you recovery. However, as a Hannibal March, I would rather go down the Chainslayer route. Now, for everything else, we're going to go Resistance for the second special effect, because this is obviously the best in slot for most of the commons. And when we start going down, you can see there is some interesting things that we can go for, like Intimidation. This is only 1 combat target. I don't like that, right? You can get damage increased to them. Entanglement. After the mounted hero deals skill damage, you reduce the primary target's troop movement speed by a certain amount. Entanglement is actually good, if you've not guessed it, for your good old El Cid. This is the one thing El Cid has running for him if you don't have a good enough slow down engine. So just remember that. Also, because of Entanglement, this also allows you to equip it, I believe, onto Robin Hood. It sounds crazy, but you can deal skill damage through Robin Hood. And if he does, he naturally slows down the target. And if he slows down the target now, well, your Robin Hood naturally gives you 20% damage on his own. He doesn't need anyone else around him as long as he's got Entanglement. So this is a really interesting one just for that match. Now, for the last bit, Cloud Piercer, we have seen this tested. I do not like it, so I'm not going to talk about it. Every 9 seconds, though, after entering battle, if the primary target troops commander has lower might than the mounted hero, the commander's damage against the primary target increases, right? I do like this for a damage source, I'll be real. And it's not going to be for everyone, though. I know, if you're obviously a whale and you're the big dogs, it makes a lot more sense. And especially if you're running combinations that use like Sowing Discord or even like rings like the Crow, which is going to steal a lot of stats, this makes sense. Same with Hannibal. This makes sense too with a Hannibal March. But apart from that, I'm not bothered, right? Because you've got it here. So you remember, reputation and victory, guys, is the same thing. One strategy, one's might. I like it for Hannibal, but that's it. That's it. And then you got Shadow Chaser here. So in reality, what you're wanting to do with Cavs, if you've not guessed it now since I've gone through and talked about them, it's going to be a resistance angle, right? With either Chain Slayer and Boiling Blood. Depending on what you're running in your combo, in my opinion, it's going to help you the most. Lone Valor is the one we need to test. I want to test this the most. I want to know if it works in rallies. If this works in rallies, this is going to be one of the best things for Cavalry. And I think even Soldier Boy will like that. Because I think Soldier Boy was saying, look, I don't use my Lubu in open field. He only uses his in rallies and for maybe attacking, obviously, some cities he knows he can kill, which is fair play to him, right? Big shout out to Soldier for that. So I think this is going to be super important for him to test and for others as well. Because if this works in a rally, this would be the number one. I would want to run this with Boiling Blood and Resistance. Those would be the 3 special effects I would be trying to aim for on a Lubu match. So that kind of goes through that for most players, right? So to finish it off, I know it's a long video, guys, but hey, you guys wanted to, have long videos now. Here they are. Archers. Archers have got some really good ones, but it is very specialized, let's be honest. So Strike Soul deals additional strategy damage. So when your commander's commander skill hits only one troop, you deal extra damage. I don't like this. I just don't like this. The one hero that does really good commander skill damage is obviously Napoleon, but we don't want to just solo hit one guy. It's just not good. We really want Napoleon's area of effect, so we want more people in there. So Strike Soul, unfortunately, I ignore. I just don't like this one for archers. Strike Weakness is kind of the same, but this is going to be for actually Sulaimans. So if the target is affected by any debuffs, such as burn, silence, or incapacitation, the mounted hero's strategy damage is increased for each debuff. This is what actually makes Sulaiman actually pretty good. I'll be real. Having this Strike Weakness on a Sulaiman, you got to think you're going to be applying the burn and the incapacitation already, and if you have Ether Flame Wings as well, that's all free. So that's 3 stacks that you're able to put onto that target already. Even at purple, that's over 13.2% extra damage, right? That's going into 15.75% extra damage. And you just get that, right? You just have that. So I do like Strike Weakness for Sulaiman matches, even though I hate that hero so fucking much. I'm sorry, those Sulaiman people, but it is what it is, right? Now, for the next 2, these are actually good. Lightning Strike, while in the double attack status, the mounted hero's normal attacks and secondary strike skill damage is increased. It's just fantastic. Like, if you're running Mulan, Bellevue, you name it, Lightning Strike is going to be the go-to. It's just so good that your normal attack and the secondary strike is getting increased by 16%. You got Eye of the Storm, which is good too. After the mounted hero activates a secondary strike skill, you deal additional damage. This isn't too bad, but it's once every 3 seconds, and I don't like that delay. Why would I care about this delay when I can have, for example, my signature skill dealing 19% damage all the way through, right? Yes, I've got to be in the double attack state, but that's very easy. It's very easy, to be honest, to get into a double attack state. We've got double attack as a skill. We literally have Radiant Guardian. It's super easy to be in the double attack state. Even Attila will get us it there, right? And once we're in it, we just get this. I like it. I like it a lot. So I do think Lightning Strike is the #1 damage-based special effect. Now, from the rest of the stuff, as you can guess, Resistance is going to be the #2 choice. No matter what, Resistance is just too good of a special effect. And I'm happy, as you've noticed, everyone has the opportunity to get this. So fan tabby dabby dozy, right? Blood Rage we've seen before. We don't care about our rage skill, especially as a Mulan player. It might be more relevant as a Aslan with the flee effect, but again, I just don't like this. I think we can be doing something better than running Blood Rage on our march. When entering battle, if we exceed 80% deployment capacity, the mounted hero's all damage increase. Again, it's not too bad for 12 seconds. It does give us that initial 12-second burst to beat people down, which is good. It is good, right? But do we need to do that all the time, right? Because it's only 30 seconds at most, and that is a bit of a bummer for someone like me. When the enemy troop, though, has less than 20% units, your mounted hero's commander skill damage increases. Now, this would be actually pretty good for Napoleon. You've guessed it. So I know earlier on I shat on Napoleon up here. It's because I've been waiting for here, right? Slaughter is actually good for Napoleon because Napoleon does do a lot of commander skill damage. And what's really cool about that is he's doing area of effect damage. So you got to think, even though you're bursting down this one target, if any of the two targets to the left or right of Napoleon is below that 20% threshold, well, that now commander skill is doing extra damage to them. It's great. It's just free damage to help kill out people. So I do like Slaughter in Napoleon and Napoleon-only instances, right? Risk aversion. After your commander activates a commander skill, increase the troop's movement speed and reduce damage taken. I do like this too. It's not too bad. I don't know how good it's going to be in the long term, just because it's actually the movement speed I care about. The movement speed and the damage reduction together means I should run away from cavalry and hopefully not die. That is the best way of putting it, right? Is it going to do that? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. We're still going to fall over, but it's fun to see this in the game, right? Now, power accumulation. For the first 18 seconds after entering battle, reduce your damage taken by a certain amount, and you recover rage by an extra 1 every second, right? When multiple heroes have this learned skill, only one will take effect, right? Because it's too powerful otherwise. And this, if you've not guessed it, is my third choice. I like this. I like this for multiple reasons. It is good for damage reduction, which is good. I can put this on multiple heroes, like, meaning I could put this on Mehmed, or I could put this on Armyy. I could put this on even Mulan. I couldn't really care who I put this on, I'm going to be honest, even with Aslan coming out in the future, because as soon as I enter battle, I'm getting damage reduction. And for Aslan, if I'm getting more rage, his commander skill goes off. That's good. That is a very good, right, for us. It's still good for Theodora and even for Charlemagne, for Saladin, right? Even those archers, it's really good for, because you can put it on those guys. They're going to reduce your damage taken and give you that extra point of rage, which will get you to your commander skills for the Napoleon or even the Ramses even faster. So I do really, really like this one compared to every of the other ones that we have. Deceptive words is the only other thing for Suleiman, and I don't know how good this is going to be for Suleiman. I will have to get someone to test it out, because I don't know if I want to go through and test this myself. But deceptive words, once every 9 seconds, you get to inflict one of the enemy debuffs, basically. You get to put burn or silence or incapacitation onto the target, which is really good. It helps Suleiman actually be online more often. And the thing is, you got to think, if you can silence the target and you get deceptive words, which also silence the target, it really does now, and I will say now, after all of this work, Suleiman has the chance to really control down formations, which might make him really interesting with future tactical archers that are in the game. So you could maybe run Suleiman with like a Charlemagne and a Zhu Liang and do some crazy damage and be super tanky while controlling everyone at the same time, right? So those are all of the special effects for all of the different marches, right? We've gone through every single one. I've given you my full opinion on it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I know it's been a super long video, but you guys want super long videos on there. But hey, that is what we're here for. And if you guys want me to create that infographic when it comes to, obviously, the good old adornments, which adornments out of the two would I pick for each hero, I can do that, as well as the infographic for maybe certain types of, special effects that you could be using for different pikemen, different swordsmen, different archers, and different cavalry, as I kind of gone through in today's video. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. A lot of information, I know, but I've covered every single thing I could go through for those adornments. So in the next adornment video, prepare to watch me roll for some and see some painful truths with the adornment system. So if you enjoyed the video, smash like, comment, and subscribe. Until the next one, guys, stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.